Hello, creators, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Welcome to this Future Friday. Sorry about the delay for the beginning. Yes, this is a live stream simulcast on YouTube and Twitch, where on most Fridays we've talked about science fiction tabletop role-playing games, and this discussion has happened plenty of times on the interwebs, but we're going to talk about a no-money futuristic society. And the reason for me bringing up a seasonal subject is that I've seen many arguments against how a society like this wouldn't work. But if you have an intellectual property that claims that this thing exists, then how could it? And me being an armchair futurist and post-humanist and transhumanist and things like that, I like the thought process of going backwards in the equation and say, well, in my setting this exists, so therefore how does it operate? And many times, of course, when you're watching television shows and movies and reading books and graphic novels, they don't explain it really well. And I think there's some really viable reasons why something like this would exist. So first, sit back, grab a snack, get your arguments ready, and we'll delve into it in just a moment. Hello again, I'm DBJ. Some of you who've been long-time supporters may have seen the locks are completely shorn off, but it's still me. It's the same person, maybe lost a few pounds, what have you. Thought experiments. Tabletop role-playing games, to me, are an excuse to engage in thought experiments many times that are useful outside of the tabletop role-playing community. I mean, if we added a number of hours our creative minds worked in the tabletop community, when we're at work and we're in our own heads and we're cooking food and we're running errands and we're having these thought experiments, this just happens to be one of them. And I like these thought experiments about various things, especially when it comes to speculative fiction. And unfortunately, science fiction is like it's like the other white meat in the tabletop role-playing community. I mean, we've got fantasy, genres in general, and then we also have like modern day, and science fiction gets thrown in there, but it doesn't really get a lot of support. So I like doing a Future Friday episode, but I'd like to take a look at the concept of a no-money society. And it's very easy. There's a mantra that I keep to myself, that it's very easy to be destructive. This can't exist. This doesn't work. The naysay any creation. But if we take the premise, no matter what that premise is, of a science fiction setting and go, this is true, therefore what's the work that we do? So I thought I would share out a very quick list of ways in which no money society would exist, and then like some of the reasons how we would replace it, and then we can talk about how would that even how would it work, right? How do you improve or disseminate resources? How does this society operate in terms of merit or functionality? What is a crime in a society when there's no money? Things like that. So I have here a short bullet list of 5 things about, like, if you replace money, what would you have? Now, I think sometimes the argument comes about a society that, if it doesn't have money, is it still a capitalist society? And I know today we have a huge problem because of what we call late stage capitalism in our current parlance. And it's extremely difficult to think of a society without it. But I would argue that we already have alternate forms of exchange and capitalism, but done in a different way. And the first one in the argument, and of course the other argument that comes along with capitalism and a no money society, is the lazy people, the UBI, like the universal basic income. If you give everybody everything that they need, then their instinct will be that you'll have a society of lazy people. Now, I don't have any proof of whether that in a large format, whether if you gave everybody everything that they needed, what would they turn out to be? And then of course we will also talk about well, if you give everything they need and or want, what does that even look like? From in a modern parlance, like they've done experiments about giving people like $100 a month or $1,000 a month. Does food and shelter and does food and nutrients, shelter and clothing count as everything you need, or does humanity need much more than that? So our first one on here is, if you replace money with something and you give people what they need to survive, they would just delve into pleasure. And I put down bliss, love, tranquility, escape, or maybe escapism would be maybe escapism might be a better form of description. And there is no doubt that the more you take away from someone's need to survive, the greater chance they have of engaging in shall I say, useless pursuits. Maybe that's a wrong way of saying it, but we know through history, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like once you solve someone's ability to the need to survive and just have your basics, right? Nutrients, food and water, shelter, clothing, things like that. Then they can get engaged in things like study and other pursuits and personal things. But even when that is improved, like for example, when you have all of human knowledge in your back pocket, when you have the ability to study anything in that same device, will people do it? So I think there is no doubt there will be a portion of society that will engage in just pleasurable pursuits. Now, what is engaging in pleasure? Ooh, who knows? Will that be the creation of art? Will that be just engaging in drugs? Would there be boredom? Who knows? What size of a proportion in a science fiction setting would there be people just like plugged into VR, having a permanent IV in their vein, just dumping drugs into it or something? Who knows? Now, for a functional society, if this is a problem, depending on how much you want to move your timeline in your sci-fi setting, I could see there being a societal rebellion against this like laziness that is happening. Meaning, like maybe society did go through a history of just drugged out, lazy, no good people, and maybe there was a societal push to push people forward, and from that came art and a desire to help the rest of society and things like that. A lot of societal traditions that we have do affect technology and the way we move. Like for an example, it is accepted the type of clothing you wear, the type of language you use, how you treat your fellow citizen is a societal thing. And so therefore engaging in those pleasurable things may be possible. There could be a police force that prevents people from like 24/7 engaging in pleasurable things. It could be, these things could be handed out time-wise. Like, hey, you do have to do something for society to earn, to earn these I don't know, pleasure plugs that you can put directly into your pleasure center in your brain. You get 30 minutes, in a 24-hour period. You want to earn more, you got to do something to do. Now, what do you do for society when you have technology and robots and things that are already done? Maybe there is a desire for a human touch in a world where perfect examples already exist. I bring to you the idea of going out to a restaurant to eat. We in our first world country, there is no shortage of being able to go out and buy foods and cook those foods or have those ready-made foods for yourself. But we still gather together in restaurants, and there's many restaurants that pop up and disappear and come about again. And sometimes it's the ambiance, it's the hanging out with friends and family. It is seeing what a human hand can do with the ingredients that we're all familiar with. And so I think artistic pursuits really could fill the gap in a society when structural needs are already done. Now we'll go to these other four ones. Purpose. Another thing about that could replace money is purpose, like need, support, healing, tradition. And we human beings, I think one of the fears of AI and being replaced as a human being is, and what's happening today about people's loneliness and loss. I feel one aspect of that is that we don't feel like we have a purpose. There's a rebellion against corporate society and the people who just want to bow out of the workforce because we don't feel like we're needed in the workforce. Myself as a Gen Xer, and I'm pretty much on the younger side of that age gap. But before that, you start talking about world wars and people born in 1920s and 30s and 40s and growing up in those eras. Many of them were in jobs where they felt needed. And the job itself might have been very mindless. Sweeping streets, working on a factory, driving a school bus, a lot of blue-collar physical jobs existed, and people raised their families. Hell, some of them cheated and had multiple families and had pretty good lives doing things, but they felt like they had a purpose. For you young folk out there, and I'm in my mid-50s, so anybody below that is kind of like young folk. For you young folk out there, some of you don't remember where there were jobs where people worked for them for 25, 30, 35, 40 years plus. And unfortunately, there is a known statistic that some people that leave their jobs after that many years, after decades and decades of working, they retire and they pass away soon after because they didn't have a purpose. So some people who work in mom and pop jobs, a place down the street or whatever, you see them every day, they feel there's a sense of purpose and need in their lives. You see this person every day and they love to see you, and they get your coffee ready, they bag your groceries, they drive your kids to school, they are the street sweeper, they are the roofer, they are the person that cuts the grass. And while many of those job functions could be filled with machines, sometimes there is, in a societal format, there is a need. This person feels needed and wanted, and we almost look at those. This is an unfortunate way for me to describe this. Sometimes we look at those people as appliances and furniture, meaning like they're in our lives. They've been in our lives since we were kids. They still are in our lives, and we don't notice them gone until they leave. And then we go, well, where did so-and-so leave? Who? I don't even know their name, but they're not here any longer. Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing it up, Adon. Yeah, sometimes these people that disappear in your lives, you wonder, like, I feel like I lost a limb. Like, shouldn't that person be cutting the grass across the street from me? Shouldn't this person be, filling my cup with coffee or when the local store disappears and you scratch your head like, man, did they retire? And they have a closing down soon restaurant sign, and you're like, I like that restaurant. They just served like great home style food. It wasn't the greatest, but I sure did love going in there because it was so common. So purpose, I think, has a thing. Anon brings up about TTRPGs, that coincidentally these are also reward systems in RPGs, and in an indie game sense, unknowingly, I think that's why those reward systems are in games. I'm going to pick with Powered by the Apocalypse, even though this isn't the only thing. This isn't the only game system or game rule system that uses it, but there's a lot of games that reward you for acting not in your best interest, or acting in a way that has nothing to do with murder, killing the bad guys on the other side. It's like, here you get a Benny for engaging in your vices. I'm looking at you, Blades in the Dark. What is it? Purpose. You get a Benny, like I think it's in Modiphius's Dune series, like where you do better if you engage in a thing that benefits your house or your goals or whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of these reward systems in TTRPGs when you want to reward the behavior you want to see. And in a science fiction type setting, you could very much match these to each other, right? Like, oh, my science fiction setting doesn't have money, but you want to teach players to unlearn their capitalist monetary thing. So how do you do it? Well, you reward them for building a legacy, for helping out NPCs, for engaging in your vices and things like that. And then that then teaches, unfortunately, like a Pavlovian dog reaction, it teaches the player, this is the thing that gets rewarded, so please do this in this game. My third bullet point is legacy, such as design and build, family, improve society. This is where Star Trek falls into. A bit of a meritocracy as well, but in Star Trek, I mean, the famous quote is like, we don't have any money, we just do things to improve society. And in a way, that's not necessarily a rule, but it is a societal, Star Trek's societal desires and needs fall into this category. So it's not that the law says you must help out society. It's just that everyone else will reward you for the more work you do to improve society. And so that's the reward system that is used in Star Trek that takes the place of money. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not a capitalist society. And I think sometimes when we talk about capitalism, we talk about our own horrors, right? But part of a capitalist society is that there is still competition. Even with pleasure and purpose and legacy and achievements and recognition, it's still competition, right? It's still the better and more you do this thing, the more reward you get out of it. It's kind of a bit of a concept, a generalized concept in capitalism. And Star Trek still has that. The only difference is that in Star Trek, people are endeavoring to better society. Now, maybe that better society is growing grapes for wine or having a restaurant. Other times it's studying star systems and genetics and learning languages, and whether it is giving us greater knowledge, greater safety, greater education for the masses, improving people's way of life, and things like that. Artistic pursuits kind of lead into that. And that's where I see legacy. And legacy is not just doing something for yourself today, but leaving something behind for others to maybe pick up the baton and move with, establishing a new home, like a colony. And in a post-scarcity society, in a weird way, even post-scarcity has scarcity. And what I mean by that is that in a post-scarcity society, we might measure scarcity by other things. For example, we may measure it by time, like fear of missing out. If you have a live concert, everyone may not be able to appreciate that live concert. Now, it doesn't mean that the tickets could be absolutely free, but if there's only 10,000 seats available at this free concert that's only produced once because it's live, then the scarcity is time and space, right? And for Star Trek, some of the scarcity may be, no, we've got a lot of resources, but who do we give the resources to first and when? And that's where I think what we don't see in Star Trek is how many times can you use the holodeck? How many times can you use a replicator? How much of the replicator tech do you get to use? Are you the first one to use it if there's a queue? What can you create with the replicator technology? Star Trek has starships and star bases and satellites and all those kind of things. Who gets to use the telescopes? Who gets to use the warp drive? Who gets to use to acquire different things? And I think the decisions made, whether they are like through AI systems and council members and things like that, to say, hey, these scientists are studying the corona of this distant star. They deserve to have a 600-man starship help them do this thing. And that's what happens in Star Trek, right? The crew is like, we have to take a diplomatic envoy somewhere. We have to take these scientists to this distant location and blah, blah, blah. And it's just requested. And I think that's how resources are divvied up. It's not every citizen gets to study the corona of a star. No, that citizen that created that project, that got other people involved in it, they are rewarded in this society more than other people with those resources. And it's based on what I'm just describing as legacy. I'm sure there's other words that describe this much better, but building and designing things. When I said family could be leaving behind a legacy, helping other people build their families, protecting children, figuring out how to extend life is a big thing when it comes to legacy, healing diseases and whatnot. And then however the Star Trek, and I'm picking on Star Trek with this, but it could be any setting, other people can say, hey, we are a council of 87 people who decide where resources go. This individual is finding cures for diseases. I think they deserve 8.6 I don't know, rations of this thing. And everyone goes, yeah, I agree with that. TA says that effect is kind of what I was saying will happen once it's used to develop a method of fusing and splitting atomic material to turn plentiful material into rarer materials. Yeah, heck, just in our own solar system, right? Like, I want to find rare earth elements in meteors or asteroids or comets or something. And yeah, if there's a queue for the holodeck, maybe this goes back to like purpose or something. Like, if you're the person that cleans out the holodeck and with your hazmat suit, maybe people respect the fact that you have to do that thing. We can go into what work means as well. Maybe later on at the end of this, I'll type in the three methods of measuring work and the circles that they encompass. But yeah. It says, until that time, the future of the basic replicator I'm working on will be a way to break the fiat capitalism. Yeah, but it will replace it with a real capitalism based on the exchange of materials. And that's the literal exchange of materials, right? You know what I mean? And of course, the rare materials will be worth more per increment than the more plentiful materials. Exactly. Like, maybe bringing in, I got to pick something out of my ass because I'm not really a science major. Platinum and uranium and I don't know, xenon, and like some of these rare earth elements might be very important for, say, constructing like our cell phones have rare earth elements in them that's necessary. So the individual that is able to find those and get those processed is valued. Now, we may not give that person actual money, but what we may give them is access to things so that they can find even more of these rare earth elements. It's imagine the person who created the aqueduct, right? The person that created the aqueduct didn't carry buckets of water back and forth from the water source back to the village, but they did design the aqueduct. They did get people involved to help build it. How do you reward that person? Maybe that person gets to sit back and relax, right? Everyone's like, thanks that we don't have to do this any longer. Here's your reward from society. You get to sit back, relax, put your feet up, drink some a frozen smoothie by a swimming pool for the rest of your life, or however they measure it. My last 2 points here are achievement and recognition. Now, achievement, I'm separating achievement from other types of things, as achievement is internal and recognition is external. Although both can happen at the exact same time. TA says, I think the clout function will be the replacement, with being recognized for past accomplishments of design, being able to be used to purchase people's belief in that capability so they can gain help. Exactly. Like TA mentions here, right? Like, let's say Mr. Anderson here has an idea to travel to a distant moon to harvest this material. Now, in order to get there, you need materials to do it. And in our society today, we would call that very expensive. In the future, it may just be, we have a factory that can build starships. We've got 17 bays to build them. Your desire to get to that moon is going to take up that one of those bays. Who gets to do it? Okay, this person has a work in progress of getting to this distant moon. Guess what? We're going to give you access to build the starship. We're going to put out a call to get the best crew. We're going to put out a call to the best scientists who are also like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's get to this moon, build the starship, get to the moon, harvest its resources, bring it back home, whatever the case that case may be. And that individual is earning clout. Their idea is good, and then those resources, it's basic money in a way is a middleman, right? Like the exchange of money is really just the exchange of resources. We're just using money as a middleman to get what we want. Well, I think in a non-money society, we're getting rid of the middleman. I need a starship. Great, you got a great idea. Here's your starship. Rather than I need a starship, which means I need funding. I need to get funding from people to get to buy the starship, to pay for it. Are you going to get this as a loan or whatnot? It's all that. Money is just a middleman. But the capitalism could still be there. In a tribalistic society, in some ways, there still is capitalism. Although lots and shades of socialism in a small tribal. But the thing is that, your great hunters or your weavers or your gatherers or your knowledge keepers or your storytellers, they're valuable, and therefore they earn a seat at the table. They earn a vote. They earn not having to go out and hunt because they've put their time in, right? And it's based on clout. Now, for me, achievement is about competition and self-improvement. Like I said, achievement internal, recognition external. So society may base things on achievements. Why climb the mountain? Because it's there. And so therefore society may, and we, like I said, a lot of these we actually value in our own society as a replacement for money. Sometimes people value human beings for achieving a goal. Bodybuilding, climbing mountains, swimming, self-improvement, meditation, like a lot of personal achievements. The Olympics, right? A lot of personal achievements are recognized and valued. And individuals that can push the human body and mind to the extreme and teach other people to do the same thing is often rewarded. I mean, let's be real honest about the Olympics and all physical endeavors and sports. Does it really add to the human experience in a physical, measurable method? Not really. But what it does give us is it gives us a goal to reach for. Human beings, guess what, everybody? Human beings can do that damn thing. And those are people who have been able to do that, to focus their mind and or body to achieve that goal. Let's give them a slow clap and reward them and raise them up so that they represent a goal to achieve to. And so while a lot of times we like to break things down to very pragmatic levels, like food, water, survival, shelter, those kind of things, we actually, in our own social medias, we value people who have great ideas, who are eternally positively uplifting other people. They go into their DMs and they're just like, thumbs up. Yeah, I love what you're doing. Hey, this is great. Hey, I can't wait for you to see more. Here's some money. Here's something, your Patreon and your coffee and your, I'll sign up for your memberships and things like that. Those kind of things are rewarded. And if you get enough people to reward that, it's a force multiplier. Hey, everybody, sign this petition to get this thing changed. Sure, I'll do that for you because you got a great idea. We value those things. That would just replace money. TA says, think someone who is unknown talking about needing help designing, constructing a starship versus someone who is known for tons of designs that work requesting help on that same project. And that's where recognition comes in, right? And it doesn't mean these are separate. Recognition is about status, clout. I even put infamy. You know what I mean? There's a rebellious nature that gets rewarded as well, right? People who give a middle finger to authority, to the corporate entities, to things like that, and that's valued as well. So someone who's unknown but is brilliant may not get the recognition and therefore may not get the have the resources necessary that maybe someone who is far more savvy in getting that clout, getting that recognition. We already have, Instagram, social media stars who are just famous for being famous. They're almost like YouTube used to have a ton of life bloggers. They just blog their life, everything that they do. They got kids, they moved, they got a house, they went on vacation, blah blah blah, and we follow them. There's a lot of people like that are recognized. Some people are recognized just to be recognized, right? And we all know the dark side of a lot of these, especially the recognition thing. But it works. The influencer economy is real and live and thriving. Most of our politicians are in the recognition field. They're not necessarily in the legacy field. A lot of them are better at being recognized, right? A lot of them are better at getting status and clout and influence rather than actually having really good ideas. But a politician with a good idea and no recognition never gets elected, which is why people are so pissed off about elections, right? Because by the time the most recognized politicians are in the forefront, all the people with the great ideas have already been cast off because they don't look correct, they don't say the right thing, it's difficult for them to communicate. TA says the real value is in the companionship too. There really, since lifespans, I'm sure, will be augmented, so enough time to do nearly anything by one person will be possible, but it will be quite lonely. I would put that in purpose. If I had to make a category, and I made up some fake categories, right? Like, if I had to put a category about like loneliness, companionship, can you imagine? And this is the thing I think people don't see about UBI in today's thing. If you if you give people enough resources to get them to do what they want, some people's, I'll say, purpose in life might just to be other people's companions. And I don't mean romantically, although that could be a thing, right? Like actual romantic companionship. And I don't mean, I guess I do mean prostitution, but not in a classic sense. But it might not even be that. Just being people's friends. Many of us are lonely people, but could you imagine having enough time to have hundreds, thousands of friends? And there's no limit to how many times you can visit them and get together and do things and have. Could you imagine? I would dare say this, that there's a whole society, and I'm talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are paid to do nothing but play role-playing games. Like, that's your job in life, or that's the job you've picked for your life, and that's what you do. You fill whole stadiums, libraries filled everywhere. These places to fill, and you get to wait, do it for your day job. Go eat, go back and do it. Go to sleep, wake up the next day, do it again. Um, you, hey, you want minis? How many thousands of minis do you want? You need a VR table? How big of? You need a jumbotron to put your game up on a? Sure, why not? Could you imagine that? And I think sometimes in the companionship, what you're talking about is there are a lot of people who are called to childcare, health services, um, and I don't necessarily mean being a professional. I just mean just being a friend to someone. Being able to walk down the street, you see somebody that looks like they're in need, and you have no need to be anywhere. You just go, look, it looks like you need somebody to talk to. You know what? It looks like you need somebody and you don't need to talk to you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a Superman, and I'm just going to sit next to you, and when you're ready to talk, I'll be there. And 3 days later, you're like, you still here? If you still need somebody to be here, I'll just be here for you. That what kind of society would that bring? Now, yes, is that a little bit pie in the sky? Sure, but I don't know. I think there's enough people out there that are struggling that if they had their way, they would just be other people's friends, if they could. TA says, meanwhile, getting to work with a whole crew of people who actually like hanging out and working with you will be far less so. Yeah, well, maybe. That's maybe a little pessimistic, I guess, if I'm reading it correctly, right? Like, it's like a rock band or like a sporting team, right? It's not just getting the best people, it's getting the best people who also work together, who have the best personalities. Listen, you don't want to be that guy that always gives away the ending of the book in Antarctica, because you might get yourself stabbed in the throat. You're gaining the clout by the way of your open source shared ideas that work, just give you the opportunity for others to see what sort of person you are too. So the clout of ideas only lasts till the clout of your personality is able to be tested. So you would have to also work on this aspect too, to maintain that collective to work with. Yeah, you're going down a rabbit hole. Yep. I hate the whole. I hate the whole politics is that the only people applying for the job are the least qualified. So we have to pick the one that is the least qualified for the job, while the qualified ones won't take the job. Yeah, because of maybe their ability to be worked with and whatnot. And something else as well is when it comes to personalities, who's to say that if money isn't an object, then we can put people who have antisocial personalities in places where they feel the most comfortable, so that the people who do have the boisterous personalities can be separated from those people. Because right now, we really don't have a way of separating one from another. You know what I mean? Like, what I mean by that is that we don't have a method of disseminating both personality and job requirement. We usually have one or the other. And sometimes we don't value the one or the other. Like, there's a lot of people, when they start working from home, they're like, F that, I'm not going back to work. I don't even like those people I work with. And sometimes bosses don't see that, right? The bosses are like, we're going to make everybody come back to work. Some people, you don't want to come back in the office. They don't want to be there. You don't want them there. They're more effective alone, Yeah, I've got some coworkers that are like that. And the funny thing is, they understand me because I understand them. I'm like, dude, you don't want to talk to nobody. So I'm just recognizing that you're here, and I'm gonna leave you to hell alone because you don't want to be bothered. And sometimes not talking to people is what people want with their companionship. I know that sounds strange, but as a person who's hung around introverts, sometimes an introvert just is like, I want to be known that you know that I'm here, and I want you to know that you know that I'm here. And that's about as far as it needs to go. I don't need fake words. I don't need any of that stuff. That's all. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people like that. Now, when it comes to work, let's see if I can put this down. And I says, you bring up a good point. What does society do with citizens who aren't willing or able to contribute in the ways it values? That is a problem, right? And when I say that's a problem, what I mean by that is, in a Star Trek society, what happens with the people that are antisocial? We know for a fact that damn near every law we have on the books today was brought about by the few usually will ruin it for the many. That's usually how it goes. I don't have a scientific method to measure this, but rest assured, whenever there's a societal problem, it's the few ruining it for the many. Now, the few might be right. I'm not saying the few aren't right, but the few ruin it for the many. And what ends up happening is a law is brought about, some kind of rule or structure, either literally written into law, or society comes up with a rule that says, listen, those few people that are disrupting everybody, we need to shut that shit down. And so in Star Trek, actually, let me leave this up here. So in Star Trek, is there a seedy underbelly of like drug addicted VR people plugged into holodecks that just can't leave? Yeah, there may be societal like, oh, those are the outsider people, and our society is so open we let them do it, but we don't want anybody to see them doing it. Maybe there's family and friends. Maybe there's an actual enforcement arm of Star Trek that's like, we need to wean you off of VR, right? And those people are like, but you're taking away my freedom. I want to do this thing. I don't want to be measured against everybody else moving toward, society into a better place. I don't want to engage in the arts. I don't want to be other people's companions and friends. Like, I just want to be left alone. And that could be a real problem. And I think that problem, of course, vacillates, right? Like, you could turn the knob to like the really dark side, where what is it, the electric state, right? Where people are like, they're losing their minds because they're plugged into VR, or it could just be very minor. Maybe the Star Trek population of people that are like that just moves in like, it's a seasonal thing. It moves in waves, and people go like, oh, I realized I was addicted to VR, but now I think you're right. I will help society out. That kind of stuff. TA mentions so what are you saying? So what you are saying is the boss sometimes needs to encourage people to seek excellence elsewhere. You know what? Here's I have a rule for leadership. And this is armchairing, right? A good leader does not need to know how a thing works. What a good leader actually has the ability to do is put people in a place that both brings out their excellence and helps their excellence help everybody else in the endeavor that the leader is following. That's all a good leader is. A good CEO, a good military leader, a good teacher, a good principal, a good faction leader, or whatever, doesn't really need to know how things operate. What they need to do is bring the best people in and put them in the best position to allow them to excel. And sometimes to do that, you leave them alone. Sometimes you have to badger them. Sometimes you have to give them all the resources they need. Sometimes you have to take away their resources and push them in a corner. Sometimes you have to give people time limits and go, get this shit done now. Other people, I'm gonna leave you alone. I'll see you when you're done. You just give me back the best thing. And that's what a good leader does. As a matter of fact, a good leader picks people who are smarter than them because the leader doesn't know what the hell's going on. And that's why sometimes CEOs are appointed to a thing that they're not knowledgeable about, because it's not their knowledge. What they are is picking a person who knows what the hell's going on. So like, if I worked for a movie industry, I don't know how to make a movie, but what I want to do is pick somebody who knows how to make movies. And I put that person in that position and bring out the best in that person, right? And put them in a position where they can excel. TA says, honestly, it does not matter if they can contribute. What is more important is that they are not trying to actively subtract from it. Yeah. I mean, how many resources? And that's an issue, right? Like every city known to man on this earth has like their seedy underbelly. And it's like, how much money and resources go to absolving that problem? And there are people who say, you know what, if you're going to bother engaging in your vices in the seediest part of the city, why don't we just let you do it? And I know that's terrible, but there's a financial resource matrix where it's like, fighting the problem is more expensive than just letting it go and letting people do whatever the hell they want. Sitting around and eating ho-hos and watching TV is far less damaging than someone going around trying to unalive people. Yep. Yeah, what is it? It's the what's the paradox? It's the tolerance paradox. A society that's completely tolerant can't be completely tolerant, because then it would have to tolerate intolerable people who want to make the tolerant society intolerable, right? So it's the tolerance paradox. Yeah. There's always a counter to the predominant culture. Yep, and it, it you could build a society that encourages anti-socialism, meaning like there's a reason why we need things like protests. There's a reason why we should have freedoms of protest, freedoms of artistic expression, freedoms of political parties that are against yours. There's a reason for that. And the reason is to have a voice, a counter voice. Yes, we're giving a lot of resources to the person who wants to travel across the stars to go to a moon to extract resources. But what about the people who say we shouldn't do that? Maybe they should also be given resources to voice their concerns. Yeah, I am not a number. I'm a free man. Yep. What is that from? 1984. Yeah, basically being a good leader means knowing their weaknesses and hiring people to do that which a leader is not capable of. Absolutely. Abso-hallelujah. Which always makes me, when I see a leader, when I see arrogance in a leader who says, I know everything, which usually plays on the recognition part, right? Like, to convince people that you should be a leader, you have to tell them that you know everything. But a good leader is someone who's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I do know people who do. Right? Like, it's a conundrum. It's also a paradox, a leadership paradox, right? A good leader, people vote good leaders into positions because those leaders know everything. But a really good leader is a person who knows that they don't know everything. Wow. Yeah, you have to word it correctly and convince people of that. Yeah. Knowledge of the role, not necessarily complete knowledge of the job. Yeah. I don't mean you have to be a complete idiot and don't know what's going on, but that's why, like, I'm gonna pull this out my ass. That's why they'll like hire the CEO of like Home Depot or Coca-Cola or I don't know, IBM or HP or something. IBM, I don't even exist anymore. But that's why those people go into, like, you become a movie exec, or you go into the automotive industry and you're like, that person doesn't know anything about that, but it's because they have other skills, right? It's not because the guy who runs Coca-Cola knows how to build cars. It's the guy who runs Coca-Cola knows how to hire people who can build cars. Yeah. Sadly, the Pareto principle applies to human resources, so the minority will always be doing most of the work regardless of how many people there are. Yeah. What is it? 70-20 rule, right? 20% of the people do all the work for the other 80% and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily break down that way, but it gets pretty close to it. The 80-20 rule. 20% of the people do it for 80% of the people, blah, blah. And it's, a lot of times it breaks down that way for like jobs and society and economics and social interactions and things like that. Yeah. Imagine a society of entities that have nanotech wirelessly connected them all, so anything one experiences at the hands of another experienced by both entities. That's dangerous, but possible. Thus, a human can understand what a sentient tree, like an alien, is experiencing to avoid conflict, but you would have to have those who can turn it off to deal with the unnanited species. I think more or less, I was thinking human to human, right? If you made humans on both sides of a conflict feel what the other one is feeling, you would have less conflict that way. Or in a post-scarcity society, you would have less need to take somebody else's resources away from them. But there's still a dark side to there's still a dark side to the whole work thing, right? Like, let me see if I can let me write this up in here at the end of this thing, because all right, so what is work? And this is just, again, this is just armchairing it, but and I think I've brought this up on the channel before. So work, I think, can be put into three categories, and how these three categories um, overlap each other, I think would make a better society in a place where work. So work is um, benefit society. So one aspect of a work is you do something that society needs, but you don't necessarily like to do it. Another part of work is what one loves to do, and then the last one is what is their what is one's best skill. And I think these three things combined make up. I guess it was bolded. Okay, I think these three things combined is what work is. And if we could get algorithms to find out all of these three things together, I think we would have a much better society, right? So cleaning ditches. I was kind of making fun of like the hazmat in the the hazmat holodeck thing. Like nobody on the Star Trek crew wants to clean out the holodeck. I mean, unless you're into that kind of thing, right? But scrubbing the walls. I'm just making fun. It's the digging ditches, cleaning toilets thing, right? It's the wiping other people's rear ends when they've defecated on themselves. Do people really want to do that? And even people who want to care for other human beings don't really want to do that. That's particular thing. They want to care for people, but do you really want to wipe other people's defecation? No. What you're interested in is the benefit of society, whether it's one human being or millions of human beings or billions. So sometimes we need people to do things for the betterment of society. Digging ditches and scrubbing asses, right? It's the cleaning up vomit. It is the painting over graffiti. It's the directing traffic. It's taking out trash, and it's the things people don't want to do, but it needs to be done, right? The backbreaking work, the dirty work, the unskilled work. Sometimes that part. Now, the second part of work is what one loves to do. You may not be very good at singing, but maybe you love karaoke. Let's see. I'll put this. What benefits society? People may love to dance, love to sing, love to read, love to relax, love to play video games. But that's for you. And you don't even need to be very good at it. Hey, people love to play basketball. They're an embarrassment in the NBA, right? People love to play dominoes or love to go jogging or love to play role-playing games. And then there's what is one's best skill? And that could be playing music. It could be just because you are very good at playing the piano doesn't mean you really want to do it. Just because you are very good at math doesn't mean you like solving math problems. My wife has a brilliantly perfected ability to remember names and faces. She remembers names and faces from like nearly 50 years ago down to like what people eat. She's got an elephant brain. It is amazing. Oh my goodness. It is a work of art. But does she really like to do it? Sometimes she's just like, because it bothers her, because she'll see somebody and go, I know that person and I can't remember from what. And I'll look at her and go, you know that person. Because your very act of going, I don't know where I know them from, but I'm like, yep, you know them. And so what I'll help her go through, like, okay, was it at this period of time? Was it in this decade? Was it from this thing? Blah, blah, and I help her work through it. But it bothers her. And there's some people who are very good at skills that they hate. It's weird, but yeah, they hate it. Yeah. Let's see what it is. I'm missing some of your stuff here. Damn, had to slave for baby Baphomet and mommy Mephisto. You're so funny. Oh, stop it. Yeah, baby Baphomet. Oh man, that's funny. But hey, that's what you got to do, right? The Bel Surabon people used to cause great resentment and insecurity amongst the neighboring races by being one of the most enlightened, accomplished, and above all quiet civilizations. As punishment for this behavior, which was held to be offensively self-righteous and provocative, a galactic tribunal inflicted on them that most cruel of all social diseases, telepathy. Yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, Ishtar. This good evening. Yesterday's character creation was interesting. Cool, cool, cool. We'll have to do that. Just to let you guys know, um, I am almost finished the creative process for this free game that I'm making, Obsidian Star. Oh, there it is. There's that was really weird. Let's see if it shows up. It won't show up, will it? Oh, it did show up. The emoji didn't. The comment showed up before the emoji showed up. That was odd. That's really cool. But yeah, Obsidian Star, the post-human tabletop game that I'm working on, is basically called Solo Plus, and we managed to create not one minion, not even the main character. Really, that's awesome. We'll have to do that. Also, we're going to do some reviews of some games coming up. February, at least the first week or first 2 weeks of February, Black History Month here in the States. So what I like to do is take some ethnically viable games and review them. And when I say ethnically viable, what I mean by that is like a game that really, for me, as an armchair fan, embraces the culture that the game is about. And it doesn't necessarily need to be African, but it can be any culture. I've got one for Mesoamerican, like Aztec. I've got one now for it's coming soon. Jewish. I've got and I've got a bunch of other games like indigenous people here in the States. I've got one for I know Legend of Five Rings is Japanese. There is anyway, there's a number of games that I have that my brain's filling up with them. Sorry about that. That are like ethnically based, and I like picking up games. I've got two from Italy. Free League does a really good job at doing some of those things too. I where they're based, but I love games made by people from other countries that are like kind of take like a blanket and put over themselves their cultural identity in the game, and I kind of like that. That is what I thought the voices of schizophrenics might be caused by: uncontrollable telepathy between two people infected with the toxoplasma parasite. Is that the one? Is that the one that goes through rats and cats? I can't remember. There's one that like transmutes through like the feces of one thing into the brains of something else. They used to think it was rats, but then they thought it was a cat feces or something. I know that's nasty, but yeah, something like that. Tia says the way it affects the brains of everything we can see it working on to ensure it can return to a source to revive its colony's genetic structure. Indefinite splitting in felines versus rodents. Yeah. That's it. That's the one that keeps going back and forth from one to another to get itself back. That's a very good basis for a nanotech, intellectually spawned nanotech society of like on a viral level. Sounds scary and awesome. Can I steal that? You don't mind if I steal that? Yes, the rats, their telomeres are breaking down while in felines it self-repairs. Wow. Nasty stuff. I love it. I included that in one of my cinematic environs for swamps, where the PCs can gain a parasite, and feline type creatures and monsters and PCs are unaffected by it, but they spread it amongst other people. So the rat folk carry it. The rat folk suffer from it and spread it, and the cat folk are immune to it, but then they carry it. If that makes sense. and I spread it over to like were rats and things like yeah. Ana says yes, it is, and it actively moderates the immune system in fascinating ways. Wow, that's nasty. I love it. And they have found a lot of people tested for it that also have schizophrenia are also infected with it and bringing up to flipping out to the same room often short circuits it, calming both down. Wow. Ooh. I once heard that if we could digitize our emotional states, like our subconscious state, so in like we get on our phone and we are consciously on our phone, but if there was a way to digitally have our unconsciousness and then share that with other people and have them feel it, that supposedly we would have a more empathic society. Like, for example, instead of me sending you a text message, if I could just send you how I'm feeling, that you would go, oh, this person is feeling this way because I feel it. I now know how to respond to that person to get them to not feel that way, because they don't know how to not feel that way, but I do. I have a remedy for that, and I can share with that person how to not feel that way. That'd be kind of cool. What I'm wondering is if this effect were caused by it, that would further drive a person insane hearing a voice they can't shut off and don't know where it's coming from. Not only can I not shut the voice off, it's like I don't really want to hear that person's. I don't really want to hear that person and what they have to say. Although you would be driven insane more so than not, but eventually I think you'd probably come to a consensus that we'd have to work together. When it might turn out to be that George Carlin was right, for every crazy person saying no I didn't in New York City, there's someone in LA saying yes you did. Yeah. Hey, remember that idea that what do they say, like everybody has a twin somewhere? Could you imagine like everybody's mind is twinned up with somebody else in the world? We just didn't know it. And the reason there are two responding to the seemingly no one due to connection of this party. Yeah, maybe we should have been combined together. I don't know. Well, anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me rant a little bit for this Future Friday. And sorry about coming on here late. I apologize for that. But I'm a seat of the pants kind of guy. Sometimes I have more trouble making the thumbnail than actually coming up with a subject, which is really weird. I don't have a staff. I don't, this is not a professional setup. Heck, I don't even think my camera's picking up. Is my camera picking up 1080p? Oh, it won't let me do it. It won't. Yeah, it's not even letting me get into high res or whatnot for something. I think it's because I'm broadcasting on simulcasting on two streams or whatever. But it's really weird. Yeah. Not controlling the reception means not controlling the output either. So they would see the most basic and awful thoughts too, not just the high level compassionate one. Yeah. Although maybe we might become numb to it. Like sometimes we have some pretty dark random thoughts, but maybe we just each become numb to it. You would hope it would get to that point, because if we heard everyone's thoughts, like all the like dark and deviant and insidious ones and stuff, yeah. Yeah, maybe they are hearing something. We just don't know where it's coming from, or they are receiving a signal that we just don't know how to receive that signal. That would make an excellent TTRPG, and there's no way I could make it. People who suffer from the more extreme versions of being on the spectrum of mental affliction are the main characters in a story. The closest RPG I have to that is one, you play a homeless person who's fighting evil hiding in the shadows. And the concept of the game says to you, are the evil things in the shadows you're fighting, are they real or are they not? And the answer to that question is always yes. The concept of the game is really good, and actually it uses pocket change for tokens in the game, and you flip those coins. It's kind of cool. You collect coins like you're panhandling, because the normies in the world don't realize that the reason why you're homeless is because you get to see the evils that they don't see. It's a pretty interesting game. Once you get the complexity down, it's not bad. It's a little hard for me to describe it because each coin going from pennies to quarters is more valuable because a quarter equals 25, but you still have to flip a 50-50. So you might, if you have to flip your quarter, you're losing 25 points, whereas you flip a nickel, it's like 5. They're not points, but anyway. Time a major meteorite hit the Earth. Share a past with one another. That is from Africa. Toxoplasma gondii is a South American origin parasite, and both of their oldest origins seem to be about around the time a major meteorite hit the Earth. I wouldn't dispute that. I think the universe is filled with life. I think most of that life is like viral, bacterial, microbial. I think eventually we will find more life, but I think I think it's true that there's a lot of life out in space. I just think it'll be more microbial. Yeah, that's awesome, TA. All right. Well, anyway, I went too long. I got to get out of here. I did start late, so that means I got to get out of here late. Got to head off to work and everything. You guys have a great weekend, and hopefully I will be more responsible and put up the channels and the thumbnails for a whole week's time, which is far better for this channel. Anybody that got here this long, liking, sharing, and subscribing is a thing that people ask for. But actually, if you just watch another video and watch it for an extended period of time, like more than say 10 minutes, actually does a lot more for the algo than a little bit. YouTube has really embraced the discovery. So if you discover more videos, I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, give me a thumbs up, even if give me a finger, even if it's a thumb or a middle finger. I don't really care. Also, if you have some great ideas about subject matter or something, drop it in the comments, drop it in the chat. Do those, just speak up, and I will hear you. Maybe not immediately, but I will try to shout you out. And it's like us just hanging out at the table. So yeah, have a great one. ATA, yeah. Have a good one. I'll take it. No wooden nickels. Yeah. What? Ooh. I wonder if I could. Amazon has some wooden nickels. That'd be great for that homeless emulator game that I have. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. I'll take you out on the Obsidian Star one, because at a certain point I will be play testing Obsidian Star live, because it is a solo plus game. So it's not a solo game, but it does have solo rules, because I'm basing it on a I got the actual thing I'm calling it from. Substratum Protocol is the basis of the game, because this is under the Orc license and Creative Commons. So of course my game has to be that way, and it's about finding data cores and things like that. Yeah, I see these people complaining about people watching without subscribing, not realizing many watch from devices not logged in, thus annoying the subscribers into not watching anymore. Yeah, it happens. It's an algo thing. I don't really play the algo game, and that's why my channel is smaller, but I find that its growth, the incremental growth that happens, is because I'm filtering for the best and brightest and most conducive and intelligent individuals who don't mind this kind of unscripted talk. I just wish you guys would yell at me a little bit more. I don't mind dissent. I don't mind disagreements. I love that shit because it means other people aren't like me, which is good. Nobody else needs to know about our secret Twilight gatherings. Yeah. Keep it this way, right? It's the house party where the wrong people get invited and ruin everything. In the coming of age movie, it's like, oh shit, they brought their antics here to the party. So I guess that's all right. And it doesn't, listen, what I do, I'm stealing from you guys. if I have to be honest, I'm stealing my para friendships from you guys. I'm stealing my creativity from you guys. It's like hanging out at the table, and I don't really get to do that too often. So my thing. So I appreciate your presence. Also, I don't do this. This isn't my job, which I think is another big factor too, right? Like I don't do this for the clicks. I don't have to hit the algo to make bank, to pay other people to do the thing. I turn the camera on and I go for it. So maybe there might be a reflection back into that, because there's a lot of channels that are like really professionally done. I mean, they're like, they've got 200 subscribers and they've got like, background settings and their audio's perfect and all. And I'm just like, how many thousands of dollars did you put into your audio and your background and all? I mean, there's some behind the scenes shit that's like really good for like some low subscriber channels, man. I want them to have all the success, because I really haven't invested in a channel. I still haven't gotten my I've got a soundboard, and I still haven't been able to figure out how to get it done. And I'm not stupid. It's just that when I plugged it in the way it should work, it didn't. And I know there's a way to get it to work, but yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on. but I'll get it up there one of these days. Yeah. Oh man. Ooh, what the hell just happened? Oh, I see it. All right, guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. See you bright early Monday. I'm taking you out with Obsidian Star. Peace, and I'm out. Bye.